What's up guys, my name is Daniel. I draw cards and turn them into 3D prints using HueForge, and I also do HueForge tutorials for all of you. Today we are going to do the artist series episode 10, and we are going to feature the artist by the name of Father Nature. I found his work over on Instagram, and he does a lot of really bright colored, really cool looking cartoon style artwork, so I think that it will turn out really amazingly using HueForge. If you're new here, the artist series was a way for me to use real artist work instead of using AI generated art for HueForge walkthrough tutorials. I do all of these collaborations with real artists and real photographers to show you guys how you can make these really cool results using HueForge. With that being said, if you are a photographer or a digital artist, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to feature you on this channel. Since it is episode 10 of the artist series, I wanted to do something a little bit special, and I wanted to announce a giveaway stream on April 19th. The way that you participate in the giveaway is you have to listen for the keyword in this video. Once you hear that keyword, you have to go fill out the Google Doc with all of your information and that keyword to be entered. No keyword, no entry. This giveaway is for US residents only, but hopefully in the future I will have something that is a little bit more worldwide. Why? And without further ado, let's get into the video. This video is sponsored by New Makers. Want to keep your 3D prints fresh and vibrant? Meet New Makers, your go-to filament for quality, color, and consistency. New Makers has a growing library of colorful 3D printing filament perfect for your next project. They offer some of the brightest colors at very affordable prices. They also have a monthly subscription service, New Box, where you'll receive 2 spools of new colors or special materials and 1 spool of their standard PLA Plus for only $39. If you're looking for quality filament on a budget, go to newmakers.com and use code NEOKOIPRINTS at checkout for 10% off your next order. Okay, so this is the first image that we are going to turn into a HueForge today. Again, huge shout out to Father Nature. Go check him out. The links are down below in the description. If you are new here and you've never used HueForge before, you would think that you just have to drag in a filament and that it would match up 100%. But see what happens whenever we find a red, for example. Now the red isn't exactly where we want it. We want it in the mushroom top, and we also want it in the eyes, but it's not matching up 100%. And maybe we can change things around to get kind of close, but we're never going to get it 100% accurate the way that we want to, because right now we're in standard mode, and within standard mode, HueForge is looking at this image with like this black and white filter. It's looking at the luminance values to create the mesh. So when I say it's looking at the luminance values, I mean the black areas are going to be the lowest parts of your mesh, and then the white areas, the background, is going to be the highest part of your mesh. And we do not necessarily want that. It's okay for more basic style images with not a lot of different colors, but it's not good for something like this that has a bunch of different contrasty colors. For this, we're going to need to use something like Color Match, where we will have control over creating the mesh using what colors we see within this photo. And another thing, this will be the last time that I use this version of HueForge. The newest version of HueForge 0.9 is now in beta for commercial users, and from here on out for the artist series, I'll be using that to show you guys a little bit of the differences from this version to that version to get you guys started with the new version of HueForge. It looks a lot different in the new version of HueForge, so there's a lot of things that I need to go over to kind of get you guys started. But anyways, let's go ahead and get over into Color Match, and we will get started on this particular image. So if you come over here to your luminance, this is where we will go down to Color Match. Now, whenever you come into Color Match, you'll see that you have a color core and a mesh core. The mesh core is where we are going to grab colors from this, or we can grab colors from the filament library to create the mesh. So personally, what I'm going to do for this image is I'm just going to grab colors from the image itself to create the mesh core, and then we will add real filaments from our filament library to the color core to actually create the preview of what this is going to look like whenever it's printed. So first, we need to make this mesh. Whenever you're making a mesh, you need to identify what's the background and what's the foreground of an image. That way you can put the colors on the mesh core accordingly. So at the topmost, this is where the topmost is going to be printed. This is the tallest part of your mesh, whereas the bottom of this mesh core, that's going to be your background. That's going to be the deepest part of your mesh. So lowest part, that's your background. Tallest part of your mesh core, that's going to be your foreground. So with this, we can see that white is the background. We're going to go ahead and bring that in, and you can see that now we have everything else on top of this white background. And you can see that we have all of these spikes going on around the HueForge. Whenever you're in Color Match, it's just a good idea. We have this function, it's called spike removal. It's a good idea to just at least turn on fast, and it really cleans up the edges. HueForge is trying to match this 1-to-1, and you can see all of these pixels right here. This is what it's trying to match up, and that's why you saw all those spikes. So if we turn this off, you can see that all of those spikes are caused by these pixels. So it's okay as long as we just turn on spike removal. It really cleans up your mesh. Now that we have our black areas at the bottommost and we have our brown areas, we actually want to bring this up. We can go ahead and disable the gray that we have in here. We don't need it. We can go ahead and bring in this red color because this looks like it's mostly in the background. And then we can bring in the darker color for it to match up 1-to-1. Considering this image is such a cartoon looking image, we don't really need a lot of blending. If you needed to have more blending in your photos, you can either increase the min depth and max depth. Really, you just need to increase the max depth to make this entire mesh core taller. That'll give you a lot more room to blend. So you can see here that we have this yellow marking going around. Why do we have that yellow? What it's doing is HueForge is actually showing us the preview of what the edges are going to look like whenever it's printed. Because remember, this is swap by layer. This isn't your traditional multicolor printing. So you can see the edges where it's doing that swap. So let me go ahead and grab this gray for it to match up to. We're going to grab this green. We'll bring down the yellow. And then we just need to bring in the droid helmet color to create its mesh. And then we need to bring in Mr. Fett's head. The way that I'm grabbing all of these colors from the image, these aren't real filaments that you see here. These are all fake filaments except for the brown that I used. You can tell that by what the indicator looks like. This looks like a house shape. This looks more like a flag. The way that I'm able to grab fake filaments and just grab image colors to make our mesh core, you hold Control or Command on your keyboard, and then you can left click and drag them in. And the reason that you want to use fake filaments instead of real filaments is you're actually able to adjust the TDs of certain filaments, and you're able to get more accurate colors for it to match up to. So everything looks pretty good here. I don't really see any issues. I see a little bit of spiking going on here, so we might even turn it on to moderate, and that cleans it up even more. And that just flattens everything out a little bit more. So now that we're done with the mesh core, we've created the mesh, it looks coherent, everything looks pretty good. We can go over to our color core and we can start adding in our filaments. So we can bring up our brown, and basically what we did with color match, we effectively thickened up different color spaces that we saw fit. That way we could do swap by layer printing with it. Go ahead and we can right click and find the closest colors for each of these. I might not have 1-to-1 matches for each of these, but that's okay. We can get pretty dang close with some of them. Pastel Peach does really good at covering it up. And you can see here that we're blending because Pastel Peach is still a 3.3. We get a little bit of blending going from gray to peach, low TD green. And then the reason that we use lower TD filaments is because it'll do a very quick transition. It covers up the filament below it very easily. So if we hit Control on our keyboard, we can scroll up all of our colors at one time rather than doing it individually. And the reason that I want to do that is we'll do it over in the mesh core as well. It'll give us more white filament down low. This is where we're at with color match. This is going to be a lot of filament swaps. Just because it's so many different colors. But because it's so many different colors, it's just kind of the nature of the beast whenever you're doing these filament paintings. This one is very colorful. Honestly, we could probably cut down on, say, the greens and the blending of like Boba Fett's helmet and stuff like that. But for this one in particular, we're going to leave it 1-to-1 because this is the artist series. So I try to make these as close to 1-to-1 for the artist. That way, when they receive it, they can really see how their art looks whenever it is 3D printed. So with that being said, we will move on to image 2. Okay, so this is image number 2 that we are going to work through. Again, this is going to be a color match image just because of the contrastiness of all the colors. It's very difficult to get this just right within HueForge if you're letting HueForge take control. So we are going to take control and color match and make the mesh that we want, and then we are going to add colors to it the way that we want to. So let's go ahead and turn off all of these. Alternatively, you can hit space on different layers within your mesh core to disable them. I'm just so used to using color sliders after all these years of using HueForge that I continually come down here to turn on and off the buttons to disable and re-enable sliders. We'll disable this topmost white. White's definitely the background, so we'll bring it to the back. And then we will go ahead and can bring black up somewhere in between. I'm gonna grab each individual color from the raincoat and start there. We'll hit control on the keyboard again. We'll grab this color of the hair in the background. And honestly, we can probably bring in black just above the white layer. Sometimes I like having the black outline either topmost or bottommost. It just depends on the image, just for the feel of whatever I'm doing. And we're not going to use all 5 of these colors to get the raincoat. What I'll end up doing in the color core is I'll end up using like a higher TD yellow to get all this blending range. And we'll play around with the mesh core whenever we get to that point. But just don't think that I'm going to be using 82 different colors like we did the last image. So let's go ahead and we will get his face taken care of. Then we need to get the bomb and the balloons. Balloons are super simple. Just a couple of reds. Nothing crazy there. And then for the bomb, since we already have red in there, it shouldn't be too bad. And this looks pretty good. This is, again, you got to think in background to foreground whenever you're doing color match. At least for these kinds of images, you want to stack your background at the lowest point of the mesh and your foreground at the topmost part of the mesh. And then you can see, again, we have spikes along the edges. So just go ahead and we'll hit fast to clean that up. And we might even want to do moderate because we had some spikes here. I'll turn it back on to fast. You can see here. You can see here along the edges that we still had some. So we'll turn on to moderate. And we're looking pretty good. So now let's go over into our color core. That looks creepy. We will grab a low TD white. We'll just grab cool white. For our background, we already have our black in. It doesn't matter what black we're using there, so we should be good. And it's printing on top, so we don't have to worry about it coming through at all. So this color, I don't know if I have a purple that's even semi-close to that. I guess this is kind of close. Let's see if we have anything in the regular PLA section. No, not really. It looks more brown. Yeah, I think that we could probably get away with something along the lines of army brown. I think that makes a little bit more sense. And then let's grab, we could probably just grab a yellow for this. Let's see what yellows we have. More of what I'm looking for. And we even have fluorescent yellow from New Makers. It's a higher TD, and then that'll be a little bit brighter whenever we go to actually print this. So that looks pretty good as far as the raincoat goes. But you can see we went from this darker color down low, and then we get all of the blending area in between. Just because we pulled each individual color here doesn't necessarily mean that we had to use 5 different colors for the color core. We were just making the mesh using whatever colors we saw in the actual image itself. We can basically do the same thing for yellow, or for his face. But we might have issues with the darker areas like the feet. So let's go ahead and we're going to do orange to yellow. And then it looks a little bit closer. I want to get more of the shadow look into it. So let's see what we can do as far as these colors are concerned. That looks pretty close. The gold that I have in here, it doesn't look that orange. The gold that I use for this doesn't look this orange. I think I used Overture's. Yeah, Overture's Royal Gold looks way more gold than it does orange. And it has a sheen. So you'll see when I print this one out how that looks, but it's not going to look this color, and I need to adjust this. We don't even really need to add this like darker color. If we want to, we can, but you can see that we're getting the blending from this orange up into the ivory white. We add in, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of adding in that dark brown. Maybe military khaki would be pretty good here. That is not really good here. So for this, we're going to make a compromise and we're just going to leave the skin tone the way it is. We'll see. We'll see if I want to keep this in or not. I'm not 100% sold on that. Let's go ahead and we'll add the rest of the colors. So this is like a blue-green that I have. That looks pretty good. Then we can cover this blue area. We don't necessarily need to. It looks fine the way it is from what I can tell here. So we'll just leave it for now. We'll make a compromise. That way we're not switching too much because we're already at 10 different colors for this image. And then with the reds, we're going to be at least 12. Oh, we might not be at 12. We might not have to. Oh no, we still have white active at top. That's why it's like we might not have to do it. Which white did we use down low? Did we use ivory white? There we go. Okay, so we can use that white again. So now we're at 11 colors. So rather than having to use like a lighter red, we can just use a white, a higher TD white to get the blending areas to make it look a little bit more pink to show off the highlights a little bit better. I think that this looks really good the way that it is. If I wanted to make it even more one-to-one, with the filaments that I personally own, I could add in, the extra blue here for just this little bit, but I don't think that it's worth adding the 12th color in, or the 11th and 12th color in to do that. So we will definitely be printing this one out, and don't be afraid to mess around with colors like that. If you see something that looks a little bit off, don't be afraid to mess around. But 11 colors is definitely a lot for a HueForge, but it's still, to get these one-to-one results, you're going to need to use a lot of filament. That's just the nature of the beast for color match a lot of the times. You can reuse colors several times, like you saw that we were reusing white, at least at the top and bottom. Like if I were to not do this one-to-one, I would probably get rid of this blue-green here and just use black. And now we're back down to 10 colors, I think. Yeah, we're back down to 10 colors. You can see that here. But I think that this looks good the way that it is. Actually, I think that we're going to use black up here just so that we don't have to use so many colors, so that we're down to just 10. And then we also are going to bring down this layer so that we still have some detail coming through of the red. That way it gives it a little bit of contrast. And that's my choice as designing this HueForge. But if you were doing this at home yourself, you wanted it one-to-one, you're more than welcome to bring in your blues. But I think that this still looks really good the way that it is. So we will definitely be printing this one. And let's move on to the third and final HueForge. All right, so this is the third and final image that we're going to work through today. If you are here and want to participate in the giveaway, the secret code, the secret password is mango. You need to go and enter into the giveaway. In my link tree, there's going to be a link to a document that you need to fill out using your email and that secret code mango. In order to participate in the giveaway on April 19th, come check it out, YouTube at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's going to be a great time. I will have it scheduled on my YouTube when you see this video go up. Anyways, let's get into this HueForge. So when we're looking at this HueForge, again, same problem as all the rest. We might be a little bit better off with this image if we didn't care about the green areas so much. If we just wanted it to be brown and gold, we could probably get away with a lot in standard mode. So let's go ahead and we will go over to color match. Again, I want to make these as close to one-to-one as possible for the artist, just so that they can see their work turned into 3D prints. So we will grab that white, bring it down to the lowest point. Let's come over to the mesh core. We're going to disable all of these. And now what we need to do is we need to bring in all of these browns. So let's go ahead and we're going to grab light brown. We'll bring in a dark brown on top of that. I've got two colors that are pretty close for that. We'll do the same for the green of the head and the darker green of the head. There we go. And then for C3PO's head, we need to grab the darkest area. We'll grab the lightest area. We'll hit T on our keyboard to get all of that blending area in between. So when I hit T on the keyboard, we're messing with the TD value of this yellow, and then we'll lock it in, hitting T again, so that we get all of the blending area from this dark all the way up to this light yellow, everything in between. So this one was pretty easy as far as blending colors for the mesh is concerned. We'll come over to color core and we're going to start adding in our colors to actually print this out. So let's grab that New Maker's Cool White. For the bottommost, we already have a black enabled. What black is this? Most blacks are 0.3 TD anyway, so it's not a big deal. Most black in general is. That should be okay. Let's see what we have as far as this color. Ooh, this gives me a reason to use olive green for the head. I haven't been able to use olive green for anything yet. I'm excited to use that and test it out for this. And then we can use army green for the head. Those details are looking good there. Let's see what we have for this dark brown. We can pretty much use any kind of brown that we have, I would think, for the legs. We'll grab a darker brown. And then I have like a bunch of Polyterras. Yeah, like Polyterra's wood brown. Or we might even have light green, looks a little bit closer. But let's just go ahead and we'll just match it up with the browns. I think that brown's going to look best overall. So we use army brown. And we'll use this lighter brown. Honestly, we might be able to use army brown up top and then a darker brown, a more saturated brown down low. Not the biggest fan of using army brown. So instead I wanted to use a high TD orange. That way it just lightens up that brown. if that makes sense. We're going to blend this color up into the orange, but you can't, as you can see here, it's not really orange per se. It's just a lighter version of the brown with that orange saturation, with that tint of orange, if you will. So I think that looks pretty good, and then we'll work on the yellows. So again, for yellows, we'll start off with that royal gold from Overture, and we'll grab the lightest yellow that we have, which would be lemon yellow. And I think that should look pretty good, to be honest. So basically what we did is, since we're using this high TD orange, we're giving ourselves more room for that brown to blend into the orange and make it a little bit lighter. But like I explained in some of the older videos, and I have a seashell test video, TD directly correlates with how many millimeters of filament you have to print. So we would need a lot of layers of orange to actually get it fully saturated. So with that in mind, I think that this looks really good. This looks more orange than what it's going to print out to be. So I think that we're going to be really good with these results. And this is definitely one that I will be printing out as well. So stay tuned to the end and we will get these printed and we will wrap things up. And with that, that is the end of this week's episode. Again, huge shout out to Father Nature for letting me use your work. I really appreciate it. And please go check his stuff out over on Instagram. I'll have links down below in the description. If you're interested in the giveaway stream, make sure that you go fill out the form that is in my link tree. I will be streaming that on YouTube on April 19th at 7 p.m. CST. So be sure to come check it out. We've got a bunch of cool prizes that I'm going to be giving away to you guys. And with that, this is the first result that we have. This thing came out amazingly, the C3PO with the spider. If you have arachnophobia, I'm sorry, but this thing looks amazing. So considering the fact that we didn't have the colors to match it 1-to-1, this still came out awesome. I really love it. And again, that's one of the benefits of using HueForge. It's more of an artist tool rather than just using it as a 1-to-1 imagery creator. So that is the great thing about HueForge, is you can get a little bit creative with those colors. And so on the second print, I messed up. Here is the results of the first print that I did. I had to reprint this one because the brown, so we used Overture Brown in the shadows of the face, and I may have used chocolate brown. There's like 8 different browns from Overture. Anyways, this thing came out awesome. This looks beautiful. I absolutely love this design and this art style. If you're new to the artist series and you're just trying out HueForge for the first time, be sure to go check out the other artist series videos that I've done. There are a lot of talented artists that I've worked with and collaborated with to turn their work into these beautiful 3D prints. And a lot of those videos I'm using color match mode, so if you're struggling with getting 1-to-1 results, those videos will really help you understand what we're trying to do with color match mode within HueForge. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. This is amazing that we've gotten to episode 10. I love that I've been able to collaborate with so many different digital artists and photographers. This has been an amazing series, and there are more episodes to come. I've got at least 3 or 4 artists lined up for more episodes to come weekly. So feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of these HueForge videos, and I hope you learned something.